Okay, this was a super cute, chill, casual vibe, so please keep it going. So before we kick off the event, I would like to invite Isabel Odea to the stage to share a land acknowledgement.
Okay, hi folks. I'm Isabel. I am the Director of Campaigns here at MUNSU. Super excited to have you all here for the event. We just wanted to get started with a land acknowledgement. So the MUN Students Union respectfully acknowledges the land on which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, whose culture has been lost forever and can never be recovered. We also acknowledge the island of Ukumduk as the unceded traditional territory of the Beothuk and the Mi'kmaq. We acknowledge Labrador as the traditional ancestral homelands of the Innu, of Nitassinuba, the Inuit of Nunatsiavut, and the Inuit of Nunatukavut. Beyond that, we also recognize that all First People who were here before us, those who live with us now, and the generations to come. We acknowledge the land both as an explicit reminder of the historic and ongoing colonialism taking place here in so-called Canada, and as a reminder of the work yet to be done towards reconciliation, decolonization, and land back between the Indigenous peoples of this land, settlers, and the people who have been historically and currently being violently displaced from their homes. We also want to take a second to acknowledge the colonialism that existed both historically and currently within the student movement, and that we are actively doing work to decolonize that and acknowledge and take action beyond simply acknowledging. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, and while we aren't in Ottawa today, I do feel like it's important to note that NEADS is based off the unceded and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, and we have participants calling in from across the country, from Turtle Island, from different ancestral and treaty lands. And it's important for us to remember that all systems of oppression are interconnected and that colonial violence exists and persists in our society today. November is also Indigenous Disability Awareness Month, and I'd like us to take a moment to reflect on how ableism and colonialism intersect and interact, on how Indigenous people are disproportionately more likely to be disabled because of colonial violence and trauma, and of how important Indigenous peoples have been to the disability rights movement. So welcome everyone, both in person and online, to the very first stop on NEADS State of the Schools tour in St. John's, Newfoundland. The National Educational Association of Disabled Students is so excited to be here. Thank you for the clapping, and so grateful to our host, Memorial University Newfoundland Student Union and Disability Information Service Center. I made a really formal script, but everyone here is really cool and casual, so I kind of want to keep that vibe going. So there will be blurbs, it will be a little scripted, we're gonna vibe with it, and we're gonna get super casual during the discussion section. So before we get into it, a bit about NEADS for those who might not be too familiar. So NEADS is a by and for cross-disability national organization supporting disabled post-secondary students and graduates full access to education and employment. So we're by disabled students for disabled students. Our main objectives are student debt reduction, employment, and experience in class and on campus. We have a lot going on, so I'll highlight some of our main projects. The NEADS Virtual Access for All project aims to support disabled students navigating transitions in post-secondary education, to provide educational and advocacy support, and to raise awareness of the challenges we face as disabled students. So our quarterly State of the Schools report, written by the incredible Elizabeth Moeller, who is hidden away in that corner. You are so cool. She details accessibility and accommodations at post-secondary institutions and other issues of interest. We have a regular webinar series that addresses topics like self-advocacy, disability rights and justice, you name it. And we invite our partners and leading experts in the field to share their knowledge and expertise with our students. We also have a directory of on-campus disabled student groups, mentorship and internship opportunities, and campus service providers. Looking at you. And the Virtual Access for All project is generously funded by Employment and Social Development Canada's Supports for Students Learning branch, which significantly increased our funding capacity. So the NEADS National Student Awards Program aims to address the disproportionate financial costs and barriers faced by disabled students and to recognize outstanding contributions within the MyNEADS community. Awards include the NEADS National Student Awards, with 42 awards of $3,000 distributed this year alone, a number of memorial and partner scholarships, the AMI Robert Pearson scholarships, and the Canada Post Award valued at $10,000. We also launched the Accessibility Resilience Program at the onset of COVID-19 to address the disproportionate and unforeseen costs of transitioning to online learning. So these emergency relief grants cover about 1,000 or 5,000 each, and they aim to reimburse you for the disproportionate unforeseen costs of transitioning, including tuition fees, assistive technology, ergonomic equipment, all that fun stuff we need to just be students. So as of June 2022, over 175 students received these grants, and over $250,000 was distributed. And all of this was managed by Kaya Newman, who is here with us today, who is getting a coffee right now, living her best life. Awesome. And we also host disabilityawards.ca, which is the world's largest disability-specific directory of scholarships. We find scholarships for all disability types across all campuses, all provinces and territories. And this is all overseen by the very talented Aliyah Petzakran, who is manning registration all the way over there. I promise I'm not hiding my coworkers. They will all talk to you. Thank you for laughing, team. NEADS Team, best team. And because I introduced the entire team and not myself, hi, I'm Carly Fox. Pronoun she, her, L. I'm NEADS Communications and Partnerships Director. I don't have to tell you what my job is because I'm doing it. I will be your MC today. If you have literally any problems, if you need anything the whole event, come find me. Throw a rock at me. Don't actually, but like, do what you gotta do. Okay, so about the tour, I promise this spiel ends eventually. So the NEADS State of the Schools tour is a hybrid cross-Canada tour visiting disabled students and post-secondary institutions across Canada to find out, get this, the state of the schools. No, cheesy, okay. Anyways, so we're partnering with local disabled student groups and community organizations at every single stop along the way to provide disabled students like yourselves the opportunity and a platform to share your experiences and perspectives. The COVID pandemic has sucked. It will continue to suck. It's not a good time. And I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts and feelings you would like to express. So really excited for the discussion section. And then we also wanted to highlight the incredible work disabled student groups are doing, especially with this pandemic. We also launched the Back to School National Advocacy Campaign, which aims to support disabled post-secondary students' rights to safe and accessible education, which has been under attack over the past few months. So as vaccine and mask mandates are being lifted and hybrid and online options are being rolled back, many of you told us you were feeling isolated, alone, and anxious. So the campaign isn't just an advocacy tool to lobby our schools. It's a form of mutual peer support and a way to connect with other disabled students across Canada. So we're still accepting submissions on an ongoing basis. They're highlighted in our social media campaign, and that ends in a final report. If you want to join the campaign, find me or email me at carly.fox@neads.ca. Heads up, we do actually care about making this worth your time and using the feedback you share with us. So our presentations, panels, discussions, they all inform our State of the Schools report. We promise not to name drop you unless you want. If that's the case, let me know. We have the lovely Lori as our captioner. Thank you, Lori. 4 hours, that's a lot. And with that, I'm done speaking. Goodbye. I'm gonna hand it off to our partners, MUNSU and MUNDISC.
So my name is Bethany Torville. My pronouns are she, her. I graduated from MUN in the spring, so we're kind of in a transition period with DISC in our executive roles. So that's why I am here today. So for those of you who are online, we are currently at the Memorial University St. John's campus. So we are with DISC. So DISC stands for Disability Information Support Center. So we're a resource center for students with disabilities, and we advocate for student rights, and we raise awareness surrounding disabled students, and we work to advocate for campus accessibility. So we are funded and governed under the Memorial University of Newfoundland Students Union. So our mission here is to provide students with information on resources that may help them on campus and in education in general. We want to increase accessibility on campus
And we want to collaborate with other resource centers and other groups and just the general student body on creating a more accessible, safe, and inclusive campus. And in doing that, we need to identify the barriers that students with disabilities are facing at our campus and make sure that we're providing them with the necessary tools that they need to succeed.
So, a bit about our history. We were first organized in the 1970s, and the first name was MOD, so it stood for Memorials Organization for the Disabled. Then Glenn Roy of London pushed to have the organization ratified by the Student Council. The center eventually became Memorial University Newfoundland Disability Information Support Center. So this is not a new resource center on campus. We're actually really lucky to have a long-standing history, and we have collaborated with NEADS actually for the past, Frank can correct me here, but I would say a couple decades. So that's a really nice partnership to have, and it's one that we really value. So some events that we've had in the last couple of years, unfortunately with the pandemic, having campus events in person has kind of hindered us a bit, but we did used to, one of our biggest events we had annually was our kitten yoga, partnering with the SPCA, bringing those cute little kittens in, and we did a campus audit, we hosted Christmas movies, and went to lots of volunteer expos. Pre-pandemic, we did an event with Blind Girl Inc. We educated not only the students, but also faculty on how to accommodate within the classroom in post-secondary. We've hosted drop-in office hours. We have recently moved from the 6th floor down to the 2nd floor and are hoping to get our office back up and running to have volunteers come in and people socialize within that office soon.
A few more things that we've done. We've done a summer virtual knit and chat series, more of a social event just to get students with disabilities together. We've also done some virtual accessible seated yoga. We did those a few times over the pandemic when campus was shut down. We also created smile masks for students and staffs. So we have an image here of two people wearing masks with a clear opening around the mouth so that it's easier for lip reading. And we do have some here if you want to grab one on your way out or during the event. We've also done virtual bingo for some fundraising. We created a resource directory for students, and we offered mental health first aid training prior to opening our office hours and support groups. Some of the things that are more so when I was in my position at DISC, we hosted a collaboration with Inclusion NL, which is a community organization here in Newfoundland directed towards advocating for people with disabilities. And that was surrounding accessible events. So knowing how to plan an accessible event. And that was hosted by Mandy, who works with Inclusion NL. We also hosted an inclusive education panel event as a partnership with and fundraiser for the Canadian Down Syndrome Society, where we had various speakers present on their perspectives of inclusive education. Myself and Erin did a Skillshare with the Student Volunteer Bureau titled Putting Accessibility First, Event Planning and Promotion. Again, sharing that awareness of making events and promoting events more accessible. We also hosted various virtual paint night events throughout the pandemic. And we also have an autism peer support group that is led by a self-advocate, Erin, and is a collaboration with DISC.
So our student involvement award through the scholarships office, we do offer 2 scholarships for people who do self-identify only. Both are valued at $500 each. They are application based and usually come out around October. So we encourage people who do get involved in campus involvement, to look at those. There's not always a whole lot of scholarships specifically for people who do identify. So this is really a niche that we wanted to keep funding, and we have for the last couple of years. So definitely keep an eye out when you do apply for scholarships for that award. So, like myself and Bethany both mentioned, we're in the process of kind of rebuilding and hoping to get the office more feasible to reopen in the coming months. We are working on an accessibility fund to help clubs and societies on campus afford more accessible events. We understand that some of these costs are expensive and not always attainable for groups on campus with students. So we really want to help other clubs and societies be more inclusive and look at universal design when they do host events, whether it's movie or a TED Talks, lunch and learns. We're also just hoping that some people in this room might be looking to get some volunteer hours and get involved with the upcoming executive.
So a few of our goals moving forward, we really want to push on advocating for hybrid learning at Memorial. Of course, it's been a challenge adapting to online school and as well as moving back into mostly complete in-person learning. So we want to make sure that is a safe and inclusive and adaptive place for disabled students. We want to create more social and networking opportunities for students with disabilities. We've done a lot, as you saw, virtually and in person over the last few years, but we want to continue providing those opportunities for disabled students to connect. We'd also like to create resources and toolkits to educate student groups and societies on how to be more accessible. Some of our initiatives towards that goal have been those presentations around planning accessible events, but we'd like to create a more concrete resource for that. And we'd also like to create collaboratives with graduate and professional students. So DISC is majorly associated with the undergraduate student union. So we'd like to progress our advocacy towards graduate students and professional students as well. So getting involved, like we said, we're majorly in a transition period now with DISC. Unfortunately, just the way it worked out, a lot of our executive members have graduated in the same year. Congrats to them, but unfortunate for DISC and making sure that DISC maintains its presence in the student union and is able to effectively support disabled students. So we're looking for passionate, driven, knowledgeable students, whether you're disabled or an ally, to fill these executive, volunteer, and support roles at DISC. And we do have winter MUSEP positions available. So those are paid part-time positions over the course of the semester. So if you're interested in maybe, I started as a MUSEP position at DISC and then took on larger roles. So if it's something that you think you would be interested in and don't want to necessarily take on a huge role right away, I highly suggest looking into those MUSEP positions. So we want to see what students want to see from DISC in the future. So we have a QR code here. I'm hoping it'll work from the screen, just to collect your ideas. So if you can.
So yeah, let's try it. So if everyone could give it a shot. It works. And then can we open up to see the responses? Oh. Okay. Yes. Yeah. We'd love for you to take the time to put into the code whatever your thoughts, ideas, anything you'd like to bring back. And then I think we will hand it back to Carly.
So now I will invite MUNSU up here. Eli up to the stage for the MUNSU presentation. Woo! Yeah. Okay.
Hi, so I'm Eli. I'm the Executive Director of Student Life with MUNSU. So I'm just here to talk a little bit about MUNSU and what we do. So we are the MUN Students Union. So we oversee the the MUN clubs and societies and the resource centers, so like MUNDISC, who operates under us, but mostly does their own thing. So we provide funding to all of these resource centers to make the student experience a lot better here at MUN, to make sure that every student has a seat at the table and to kind of advertise as many diverse perspectives as possible. So we own this venue, the Breezeway. It's a student-owned and operated bar. We have a print shop upstairs, a print shop and convenience store, as well as our office upstairs and our radio station, CHMR. We have wonderful staff that helps out with all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about MUNSU and what we do to make sure that we are making all of our events and all of the things we do as accessible as possible. So for example, the Breezeway just went through a really massive renovation. So we have a fully accessible washroom. The stage is one of the only accessible ones in the province. Actually, I think it is the only accessible stage in the province. So we are also one of the biggest bars. We have the wheelchair accessible tables. We tried to do as much as we could to put as much accessibility as possible in all of our spaces. And we also advocate to Memorial University to ensure that they are being as accessible as possible when in all of their spaces and with what they do. So for example, if a student with a disability has an issue with Memorial University, they can come to the Students' Union, where we will advocate on their behalf to make sure that MUN is doing them as much justice as they deserve, which is all of it. So that is kind of our job as the MUN Students' Union. So I am also the Students with Disabilities rep with the Canadian Federation of Students, Newfoundland. I am also, I'm Mi'kmaq, half Indian. I was raised in a white family. So I actually read a really interesting post a few days ago about how a lot of Indigenous people are misdiagnosed or not diagnosed with a disability because of the colonial violence that Carly mentioned earlier. We often go overseen and ignored in conversations like this. So my experience, I read the post and it was talking about how a lot of Indigenous children are misdiagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome, and it's actually autism. So that's something that I've really been struggling with my life, is finding out that I actually am autistic and I do have ADHD and all these kind of things that originally kind of alienated me from the rest of society because I wasn't being treated in the way that my ancestors wanted me to be, in the way that I should have been given access to my cultural heritage, my cultural way of healing, and all of these kinds of things that weren't accessible to me because of the colonial violence. I also don't qualify for scholarships. I don't qualify for all these sorts of things at Memorial because I am a part-time student because of my disability. And so I don't qualify for scholarships and I have to go for student loans. I also don't qualify for tuition relief grants because I'm a part-time student because I have a disability. So something that I'm really passionate about is advocating for those restrictions to go away for not just students with disabilities, but all students. So yeah, this month, November, is actually Indigenous Disability Awareness Month. And I didn't know that until recently. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here and just kind of like talk about my experience and introduce MUNSU. It's really hard for Indigenous students to get any sort of supports and accessibility, especially because we're disproportionately affected by these sorts of things and the systems of oppression that we're up against at the university level, at the government level, at every level, especially healthcare. So I love decolonizing healthcare. I don't know if you can tell, I kind of just go off on tangents and rambles. Yeah, so basically for the MUNSU part of the discussion, we just wanted to talk about that. And also we wanted to kind of discuss amongst ourselves and have more of like an interaction discussion, what a student space means for you on campus and how we need to make sure it's as diverse as possible so that people like me and people who have similar experiences to me can be given as much of a voice as possible in these sorts of things, because often Indigenous people and other people of color who are disabled get completely overlooked in these conversations. And it's really important that we're here and people understand that we are really affected by these things. So I'm Eli, and so I guess I will just put some questions on the table for discussion. Like, what does diversity mean to you within your disabled space on campus? How can we make these spaces as accessible as possible to not only students with disabilities, but students like me with disabilities who are often affected more strongly. So, yeah. Thank you.
Give it up again.
Yep, so as they said, first off, thank you. Wow, incredible. Thank you to MUNSU and MUNDISC. That was great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Fuller. I'm a researcher with NEADS, and I've been with the organization since 2014. In my role with the organization, I've worked on things like the State of the Schools project, which Carly mentioned earlier, our Breaking It Down portal, as well as accessibility in science labs. I'm a current doctoral candidate at Western University in the Health and Rehabilitation Sciences program, occupational science field, where my work looks at home care, self-managed attendance services, and how adults with disabilities negotiate and resist discourses around care. So maybe we'll pop to our agenda slide. So I thought today we would talk about mentorship. Really, this pandemic has allowed many of us to rethink our career, reconsider what we're doing, and mentors are a really big part of that. So we're going to talk about what mentors are. We're going to talk about some of the qualities that good mentors have. Also going to discuss how to find and some basic practices to build a successful relationship with mentors. If at any point today I'm speaking too quickly or you can't hear me, just jump up and down, raise your hand, do something, and let me know. So we'll move on to the next slide. So everyone can benefit from having a mentor. A mentor is an individual who provides you with the tools and guidance and support, as well as feedback you need to thrive in your career. This is a genuine relationship and it is reciprocal, so meaning take or bi-directional. Your mentor might have shared experiences in either your field, the company you work for, or the school you're at, or it's your disability. And that's something that NEADS has done a lot of work on. Shout out to Janique, one of our colleagues, who's done a really great mentorship guide. And NEADS has done quite a number of presentations over the years on mentorship. You can check that out on our YouTube channel. Mentors can also offer advice and talk to you about what they have in their career and what has worked, or maybe what has not worked. You may or may have one or more mentors. In fact, suggest, or I guess I suggest that you have at least two. One related to your field, your job search, and the second that shares your disability or has a similar disability or can talk about disability. So for example, disability in graduate school. Through the challenges, because heaven knows we know there are lots of opportunities related to your mentor time and the energy to play a consistent role in your life. Or you should discuss and agree on a defined period of time for how and for how long. Yes. I can try. Okay, so we're talking about how long and how often the individual will. And I'll share some ideas with you on that presentation. So next slide. And again, thank you for just calling me out if you can't hear. I'm happy to adjust. So who is a mentor? A mentor is someone who accumulated their wisdom, experience through years of experience. A mentor can get unstuck if you feel that you aren't able to advance or you're not making it your career. A mentor can often provide insight into the industry, even if, and they can also offer you suggestions on how to apply to your skills. Mentors can also be mentors and they can introduce you to useful industry. They can also offer suggestions on where to go to them, such as meetups or associations. I'll just ask that for the presentation, we not pop things in the chat because Jaws reads it, but at the end, there'll be lots of time to put things into the chat. So thank you so much for participating, but just refrain from the chat for now, that makes sense. So thinking about next slide, thinking about qualities. So some things that are going to help you. First, you should be willing to share their experiences and knowledge in a respectful manner. They should have a desire to invest in others. Mentors are only, so their motivation should be to share hard-won wisdom. Mentors should listen with empathy, not judgment, but be willing to have a clear and honest that can benefit. And it's helpful that this flows from them to you and you to them. It is very important to be open to feedback. It's equally true that the mentor must be open to your thoughts on what is and what is not. You have suggestions on your meetings are uncomfortable with discussion. Mentor should be open to your feedback. So when giving feedback to your mentor, be clear, honest, specific, and think when to share this feedback. So ideally, your mentor will be also willing to be your advocate. What does this mean? So this means speaking up for you. So as a graduate student with a disability, this might mean speaking up for you to potential thesis advisors or supervisors, talking about the fact that notwithstanding your disability, you're able to participate in the graduate environment. Might mean advocating for you to present at conferences where they've never accommodated somebody with a disability. I can speak from personal experience. Recently, I went to a conference and they were quite nervous about how they would accommodate me, and my thesis advisor spoke up and did a little bit of background advocacy to make sure that I would. Sorry. Okay, is this better? So yeah, really, I was just saying the importance of it. That speaks up for you on your, and not only is an advocate, but can be thoughtful and an advocate with personal accountability and relationship to provide you access to opportunities that you might not be able to get. So my example there of the presentation at a national conference, I probably couldn't have done that on my own without my thesis advisor sort of building those bridges. So next slide. Let's go through these qualities one by one. So your mentor should have an expertise in the career, job, or company that you are seeking, but they should be seeking to share that expertise with you. Good mentors are to benefit from our audience. They will respect your individuality, and they will respect that you may do things exactly as they or would have done. So next slide. Good mentors value you as a person. They respect your abilities, your experiences, and your choices. They understand that mentorship is an investment of both time and energy. So it is critical they find genuine fulfillment in their role as a mentor. Mentors don't expect you to make change, and they build out your achieve your short and long-term goals. Mentors care about growing and maintaining a mutually beneficial relationship and helping to expand your contact list and your network. So next slide. Just thinking about selecting a mentor, you need to select a mentor who you both respect as an expert in their field and that you trust. So select somebody who interacts and communicates with others in a respectful manner. Mentors who offer unconstructive negative criticisms are not helpful. Look at individuals' online profiles, social media articles, profiles that they have contributed to. Ask your friends and your coworkers for their thoughts. It's really important to make sure that you're making a trust to connect with somebody who isn't sort of bashing people online or doing anything that's just respectful as it reflects on you. There's a saying that says you are the reflection of your five closest friends. Next slide. So select a mentor who listens carefully to both what you say and how you say it. Sometimes it can be difficult to express ourselves, so we need someone who is able to understand what the words that you're saying and the emotions are. Does your mentor talk and you talk? This is sometimes called sharing, making sure that the communication flows in both directions. Your mentor is there to tell you what to do, and they are there to offer comments and opinions, but your decisions are your own, and you are in charge of solving problems. Shared experiences such as similar fields or similar disability can be an asset. Someone who offers perspectives but does not impose their values or ideas in an uncommon. Next slide. In authentic relationships, both parties have honest conversations and delivery. It's really important to think about the ways in which you deliver and receive. As well, mentors will give feedback that's constructive, kind, and good, but that doesn't mean they'll always agree with you. So one of my favorite kind of sayings is radical candor. So looking at feedback that's honest and open and constructive, but not done in a negative way. Radical candor, I think, is especially important for those of us who have disabilities and maybe haven't always had an opportunity to share and receive feedback. Sometimes people might feel uncomfortable giving us feedback. Maybe they feel like it's going to hurt our feelings. So it's really important to be able to talk to your mentor about the fact that you are looking for this feedback. So next slide. So now you know what qualities you're looking for my mentor. And ideally, you can find somebody who has most of these qualities, but maybe not all of these qualities. So where can you find somebody? So you can reach out, you can ask, you can explain your connections, you can reach out through things like LinkedIn, 10,000 Coffees. That's basically a website that allows you to connect with people in your field. You can also ask colleagues if they have any suggestions where you can find a mentor. And when you're reaching out, just simply tell the person that you're looking for a mentor, be clear on what you're asking for, the time commitment, and what you're looking to achieve. So next slide. Also, it's really important to find somebody that you enjoy working with. If you don't have anyone that comes to you, you can look for somebody. Like I mentioned, LinkedIn employment service providers might be able to recommend as well. Religious organizations, student union groups like MUNDISC. And just again to reiterate, we want to ask and talk about your goals. Don't feel bad if they say no. There might be things going on in somebody's life that you're not aware of. So as someone with experiential knowledge of disability, I think it's critical to have a mentor share views and perspectives. So if disability is a significant part of your daily experience, finding a mentor with a disability or having the second mentor with a disability can be a strategy to tackle work challenges and opportunities. If you have a work mentor with disability, understand you have different complementary functions. So next slide. Yes. Oh, I'm not sure. Sorry, I apologize. Apparently people are having difficulty hearing.
So if you just take a step to your right. Yeah, so nice. Excellent.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't realize people were having difficulty hearing. So just thinking about, do they have experience in the career industry or company you're pursuing work in or not working? Conduct some online research to make sure that they are a positive force in your and that they are in their field. Do they have mentors of their own? And it's really important that your mentor is also a speaker. So just some cautions, be patient. Not everyone says yes. It could be, again, things not in their own lives. It's also important to take feedback, start with and move forward. And consistent relationships with people all times, in person, online, over Zoom, especially in today's online world. It's really important. We want to make sure that you're doing straight that's not coming through. And of course, it's important to thank people, even if it's difficult to hear. So I mentioned that this is a genuine or authentic relationship. And as the person who instigated the relationship, you are in charge of managing it. Your meetings are for your benefit to make the most of your time and to ensure the mentor that this is valuable. You should prepare some suggestions on how and will meet and how long these meetings will be. Where will you meet? So thinking about location. You should be thinking about short-term goals and long-term goals. Your mentor's role is to assist you with your personal and professional goals. You have to know what they are before you start the meeting. You can adjust them as needed. It's good to have a sense of the you need to start point. Share these goals with your mentor ahead of time, ahead of your first meeting, and they might be valuable insights that can help you specific on how you will tackle these topics in this. So the next slide, we're going to talk about preparation. So thinking about preparing for the meeting. So you want to prepare. You want to prepare a list of questions that you ask. You want to prepare the block questions, and you want to ask for feedback. So, for example, I know I eventually want to graduate school and then start maybe breaking out long-term goal down. So next slide. It is completely up to you on what your short and your long-term goals will be. But in your initial conversations, here are some suggestions and some questions you can ask. So questions you could ask your mentor: how did you get started on? How did you manage and expand your network? To someone starting in this field. Might I encounter getting into this? How have you dealt with challenges related to your disability? How did you develop X number of skills? So, for example, how did you develop research skills related to graduate school? Ask very specific questions. Avoid yes or no questions because it's hard to get a conversation. They don't encourage conversation. Next. So, just going to talk about some guidelines. So, set some guidelines at the outset for a relationship. You want to determine the length of your mentorship relationship, and maybe you want to think about the minimum commitment. So, maybe minimum of a year. What's that going to look? Because a minimum of a year is probably realistic to develop some of those. So, establish how often and for how long you will meet. Build a trusting and respectful relationship. Meet regularly so that you can have a conversation and develop a strong partnership. Start with discussions and agree on what your goals to be, and then set and fair expectations. Outline what you will be doing each week as a mentee or month and around that. Yes. Okay, well, that's actually perfect because that's the end of the presentation. So that's perfect. I'm going to open it up for some questions. I just want to apologize. It's really hard to hear how I'm sounding out there. So if at any point I wasn't, I want to extend my apologies for that. I sound very loud. Okay, so any questions or comments?
Well, then I will say thank you very much.